Hi, Jakey Stief here, the long-haired freaky dude. Today I'm reviewing Lysis, the dialogue of Plato translated by Benjamin Jowetts. This dialogue ponders questions revolving around the nature of friendship. What makes a friend a friend? And there were indeed some great things said on the matter. Plato sets the scene with the narrator, who is Socrates, and a few other characters, Menexenus and Hippothales. Socrates is on his way from the academy to the Lyceum when he meets them. I was a bit surprised by this because I was unaware that the Lyceum was around during Socrates' time. But after doing some research, I discovered that it was actually around long before Aristotle. A bit interesting though, don't you think? That these two schools should be presented side by side before the emergence of their epic duality, which then shaped the history of Western thought. Anyways, Hippothale has this lover, a young man named Lysis, and he constantly writes him poems and songs to glorify him. And unfortunately, his friends must endure these poems and songs as they so comically complain. And Socrates is quick to point out that these songs don't actually glorify Lysis, but Hippothales himself. And I would have to agree based on the logic that Socrates gave. Yes, an older man is loving a younger man. Deal with it. But really, it might not be quite as suggestive as it sounds. The English language is rather poor when it comes to describing love. We've only got one word for it, and yet there are so many types. The Greek, on the other hand, have many words for love, such as eros, which is sexual love, or philia, which is a type of friendship love, the love one shows towards a friend. All of them, when translated to English, however, all just end up as the one collective love. So, especially when reading a translation, one must infer to which love it is referring. Since I don't see myself learning ancient Greek, at least not for another year, I'll have to content myself with these inferences. And from my inferences, it seems that there might be, indeed, a play on both types of love, eros and philia. Hippothales' relationship to Lysis seems largely the nature of an eros love. But then again, it was a different culture back then. Maybe friends showed their love in a completely different way than we do now. But even so, it still felt like eros to me. The nature of Socrates' love seems to concern itself only with philia. Anywho, after Socrates points that out, Hippothales then asks how it is that he should talk to Lysis, if not through poems and songs. So Socrates then calls in Lysis and speaks to him in the manner by which he thinks he should be spoken to, as a demonstration, which is sort of a very humbling and a very critical manner. Socrates and Lysis then become entangled in a discussion to find out why a friend is a friend. Once again, it seems that in some parts of this dialogue, friend and love are used interchangeably, but this is not the eros love which we see with Hippothales. This is the philia love, the friendly love, the homie love, the bro love. Throughout the dialogue, they seem to reach many conclusions as to what is a friend, but they end up dispelling them all, for they're all erred in some way. First, they think that friends are those who are similar. A good person will naturally befriend a good person. But then they realize that those are typically the type of friends who will grow jealous of each other and therefore aren't actual friends. Then they decide that the opposites are friends, like a rich man to a poor man. One has something to offer, therefore making him a friend. But then they realize that not all opposites are friends, like good and bad. Though they then discern a third variable to the good and bad equation, a neutrality, which is neither good or bad. And they think that perhaps the neutral person will befriend the good because of the bad. A sick man befriends a good physician only because of the evilness, which is his ailment. But then they wonder what would happen if they took evil away altogether. Would there still be friends? And they say yes, there will be, thus ultimately reaching no conclusion. Despite that, it's a very intriguing dialogue and there is much to be learned. Not to mention the dialogue isn't really that hard to follow along with, kind of put simply. Here's a few tidbits from the dialogue which I particularly liked. And they wish you to be happy? Yes. But do you think that anyone is happy who is in the condition of a slave and who cannot do what he likes? I should think not. Socrates, discussing slavery. Very nice. But he then asks Lysis to ponder why his parents will allow slaves to do things like drive a carriage, while they won't allow the free man, their son Lysis, to do those very things. A slave superior to the free man? Socrates then points out, however, that it's not because of his inferiority in status, nor is it because of his deficiency in years, or because of his youth, but rather because of his deficiency in knowledge. Restrictions are placed not because he's too inferior or because he's too young, but because he doesn't have enough knowledge of the matter. I think this is a key difference which people need to learn to discern in today's world. Youth doesn't always imply ignorance, and adulthood doesn't always imply wisdom. The wise, more knowledgeable man will always get the job over someone else, no matter what age they are, no matter what relation they have to the hirer. Later on, Socrates proposes that a friend is only a friend if there's something to offer. A useless man has no friends. A wise person has many friends. At first I rejected this notion, but the more I began to chew on it, the more I realized that it's kind of true. To some extent. All friends give something, and sometimes it's physical things like material or skill, but other times it's more metaphysical things like emotions and memories. But in essence, they're still giving us things, even if they are metaphysical. I just don't think it's a great definition, however, because there's still people who give us things and we still hate them. For instance, if I was Japanese, I wouldn't be friends with the Americans because they gave me an atom bomb, okay? I'd be kind of angry and kind of sad. So then, because of this, he adds a layer to the definition, useful and good. I think that's something I can even more so agree with. And while this usefulness still seems like it might make a friend material, Socrates is quick to point out, I should greatly prefer a real friend to all of the gold of Darius, thus making friends more important than material things. And I think by saying that, he shows that while friends can offer material things, the more important things that which you seek from them are the non-material, at least between real friends. So there he adds yet another layer to the definition. He states that which is dear to us for the sake of something else is improperly said to be dear. Brilliantly put. That couldn't have been said any better. This is where they ultimately decide that a useful friendship isn't always a real friendship. And I think that has much truth to it too. If you're friends with someone because of their wealth, are you really friends? And let's take it to the metaphysical realm. If you're friends with someone because of good memories, are you really friends? What happens whenever they no longer have wealth or they no longer give you a good memory? What then? Will they still be your friend? And now more on the notion that the evil makes the neutral befriend the good. They reject this notion eventually, but I disagree with that rejection. For if there was no evil at all, would we recognize the good? I think not. Would these things appear good, or would they merely appear neutral, part of our daily lives? It's unfortunate, but I do think it's true that in order for goodness to have some sort of extraordinary value, there must be an equally opposing force of evil for us to despise. For if there's nothing for us to compare good to, how is it good? For isn't good only a creation out of our comparisons to evil, and vice versa? I think the two are more symbiotic than we often grant them. They also briefly talk about what if one friend loves someone, but they don't love them back. Is it still friendship? I wasn't entirely satisfied with their discussion of this question, and I felt they could have talked about it a bit more, but it still does present an interesting thing for us to ponder on our own. Is a one-way friendship a contradiction, or is it a possibility? So perhaps friendship is loving someone for the sake of loving someone. Maybe there is no other reason. A person to which we can devote our usefulness to. I know people who are just like other people and people who are polar opposites of other people who are great friends with each other. It really makes no sense, but it's the way of the world. We're equally great friends with people entirely like and entirely unlike us, even if they do possess qualities of bad. We just deal with it. We're still friends with them. It's indeed a tough thing to ponder why it is that there are friends. If not for evil, if not for likeness, if not for dislikeness, then why? So I ask you, what do you think is a friend? How do we determine who our friends are? Well, I'm Stief, the long-haired freaky dude. Thank you for watching this video. If you like reading stuff like this, like the dialogues of Plato or other mathematical or philosophical or literature works, then might I suggest taking the Great Books Challenge. I'm sure it's something that you would absolutely love to do. And if you want to see more reviews of Plato's dialogues or other reviews of books in general, then might suggest checking out my channel and hitting the subscribe button. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.